Finding spots to bluff in no-limit hold'em cash games is vitally important to ensuring your long-term poker success. If you hang out and wait for your best hands and just try to win big pots with those, you'll either win a little bit, break even, or perhaps even lose. The players who are winning the big bucks at the game are the ones that win a lot of small and medium pots that do not belong to them. And in this video, I'm going to show you 2 of my absolute favorite bluffing spots so that you can implement those into your strategy and start bluffing your opponents out of their seat. Let's take a look at some hands. Let's take a look at a situation where you have a whole lot of very, very strong hands in your range and your opponent does not. Let's suppose we're playing 5-10 no limit hold'em. We raise it up from the low jack seat with king 10 of spades and the big blind calls. Flop comes queen 9-5. So we have a gut shot. Opponent checks. This is a spot to make a medium-sized continuation bet, especially with our polarized range of our best hands and our draws, and our gut shot with an overcard and backdoor flush draw is definitely a draw. So we bet 35 and the opponent calls. It's important to note right here, most players will raise with their sets, mainly pocket 9s and pocket 5s, and also with queen 9, which means the best hand your opponent can have in this scenario is something like king queen or queen jack, and that's the best they can have. Whereas at the same time, we can have queen 9 suited, pocket queens, pocket 9s, pocket 5s, aces, kings, ace queen, king queen, right? We have all the good hands. Turn is a 2 of spades, which is a complete blank. Perhaps we even have pocket 2s every once in a while, and they don't. They check. This is an excellent spot to bet the turn using a very big size. Because if you think about the opponent's range compared to ours, we have a whole lot of really good hands and a whole lot of draws, whereas the opponent has a whole lot of medium strength hands. And if you can put all of those medium strength hands and whatever draws they happen to have in a nasty spot, that's going to result in them folding a ton. So this is a good spot to bet big. And in this spot, a big bet would be something like a little bit more than the size of the pot. In this scenario, the pot's 135, we go 175. That may sound very big, but it is often what you need to do. If you think about your cash games, almost no one is using these overbets, and that's going to result in the opponent check calling a lot on the turn and then check calling a lot on the river. But when you go ahead and put in this big turn bet, what's going to happen is your opponent's going to overfold a lot in this scenario, which results in a lot of these medium-sized pots going your direction. And if they do call, they're still going to be in with a lot of hands like queen jack, which you'll then be able to get a lot of value from on the river. When you use this big turn bet, you'll often be able to use a gigantic river bet, which allows you to be betting with a polarized range and putting your opponent in a very, very, very nasty spot. This time though, we bet 175 and they just give us the pot, as they very often will. Let's take a look at another hand. Let's take a look at a scenario where most of your opponent's hands that check call the flop are going to become a whole lot worse on the turn. So in this scenario, we raise the Jack 10 offsuit from the button, playing 5-10 no limit hold'em. We make it $30, and the big blind calls. Flop comes 8-7-3, giving us a gut shot and 2 overcards. This is a spot where we definitely do not want to be betting with our entire range, but when we are betting, it's going to be most of our best made hands plus some draws, and a gut shot with 2 overcards definitely counts as a draw. So the opponent checks, and when we're betting very polarized in this spot, but we still have a lot of very strong hands like sets and 2 pairs and overpairs, we're usually going to want to bet big. So in this spot, we bet the size of the pot, and the opponent calls. Notice in this scenario, the turn is going to change the board very frequently for a lot of the opponent's check calling range, because they're going to have a whole lot of top pairs and middle pairs. If you think about it, an overcard or a card making a straight is going to come a lot of the time. So we already know we're going to be barreling the turn a lot, unless it's specifically something like an 8 or a 7 or a 3. Those are going to be very bad cards for our range and very good for the opponents. Turn's a queen, and if you think about our range, we're going to have a whole lot of hands like king queen, queen jack, queen 10, queen 9. These are all hands that would raise pre-flop and continuation bet the flop. So this queen connects very well with us, but it connects really, really poorly with our opponent, because they're going to have almost no queens in their range, because they're going to fold out queen jack and queen 10 and queen 9 to a flop bet. And unless they improve to 2 pair, a lot of their 1 pair hands on the flop are now quite marginal. So this is an excellent spot to use a big turn bet, usually with the idea of blasting them on the river. So in this spot, the opponent checks, we bet 200 into the 195 pot, so about the size of the pot, and they call. I can already tell you, on pretty much any river besides a queen, 8, or 7, we're probably going to be putting the opponent all in. So the river is a 2. They check. Pot's 595. This is an excellent spot to go all in because unless they somehow improve to 2 pair on the turn, they're usually going to fold. And the nice thing about playing against most players is they will very often check raise 2 pair on the turn. So if they don't have 2 pair in their range anymore, the best hand they can have within reason is going to be something like an 8. And an 8's going to fold to this river bet the vast majority of the time. And if you happen to find against you're playing against someone who will call with an 8 every time on the river, because they're an extreme calling station, then of course you won't want to bluff quite as often, but then you can get full value very confidently when you happen to do have a hand like pocket 9s in this spot. So the opponent checks the river, we rip it all in, they fold, and they give us the pot. So that's it for today. Those are my 2 favorite bluffing spots. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do me a quick favor, click the like and subscribe buttons below. I'd appreciate that. Also click the little notification bell. I hope all of your bluffs get through. Sometimes they won't. When they don't, you can come and blame me. Leave a comment below and say, I ran a bluff and it failed. But it's okay. Sometimes your bluffs are going to fail. More often than not, a lot of small and medium pots are going to be going your direction. And in the long run, you're going to win way more money if you bluff than if you don't. Good luck, have fun, and I'll talk to you next time.